It gives me great delight to welcome you to the Menzies Alumni 2023 briefing. The Menzies Foundation has had a very focused and successful year, continuing to build out our platform, where we're seeking to explore ways and to build a platform that amplifies a leadership movement for the greater good by encouraging all Australians to think deeply about their purpose, build their leadership capability, and think about what contribution they can make. We do this work by identifying leadership challenges and learning about leadership in working on those challenges, and then thinking about how we scale new innovative ways of building leadership capability. Our work with science entrepreneurs continues and will culminate in the release of a white paper next year, which based on the outstanding young scholars that we've recruited over the last couple of years, the fellows we've worked with, and workshops and other interactions in science entrepreneurship, really will support the work that that needs to be done to unlock the potential of Australian scientists to commercialise as an alternative way of translation. We do great science in Australia, but we still continue to have a poor commercialisation record. And there are numbers of rigidities and constraints in terms of the way we cultivate young scientists who have high potential and high interest in commercialisation. And our work continues to encourage scholars to pursue and to become more knowledgeable about what it takes to commercialise their research, and also to work at the systems level in engendering a conversation that's focused on unlocking science, Australia's really quite exceptional science. And we look forward to sharing that paper with you early in the new year. Our work in the law also continues. The Nini and Stephen Emerging Technologies program continues to focus on the very significant challenges that emerging technology, is creating for the society as a whole, and the important role that lawyers should play and can play in supporting and protecting Australians from many of the risks associated with emerging technologies. There's been so much debate about cybersecurity risk, about the impact, both positive and negative, of AI, and also in our work with CADE, the Centre for Artificial Intelligence and Data Ethics, research that really indicates the extent to which many Australian lawyers, particularly in corporate contexts, don't think or don't feel as well positioned as they ought to be in helping corporates manage those risks, such that legal expertise is sought at appropriate times before problems occur. And so once again, there's been some really excellent research being done by Kay that we'll release next year, and there'll be a series of roundtables, which once again we'd be so delighted if those interested joined in, really looking at the implications of some of these emerging technologies and their risks from a legal perspective, and working with lawyers and those associated with those risks to think of new ways of framing the law's responsibility and the contribution it can make to building and mitigating risk in regard to emerging technologies. Our work in schools continues to run at pace. We've been working with an amazing cohort of school fellows again, and run a very interesting pilot testing the digitised platform that we're in the process of supporting the development of, to build collaborative capacity in schools, which underpins collective efficacy and which positions schools to more efficiently and effectively deal with the complexity of running schools in the world today. Student learning outcomes continue to go backwards, and it's absolutely imperative that we think about how we support leaders in schools to cultivate the type of culture and context in which, particularly increasingly, teams are able to, as I said, operate as efficiently and effectively as possible in aspiring to improve student learning outcomes. And our work in that regard has taken significant steps forward. We're just about to release a collective efficacy mapping tool report produced by ASA, and our work next year in phase 2 of the pilot is starting to show some very interesting outcomes in terms of how we actually build this capability in schools. Our work with Indigenous women in the Kimberley has now progressed to the stage that we're really looking at how we take all our insights and learnings from the club, the Accelerator Club, and the 150 women we're connected with in the Kimberley, and take that club into other parts of rural and remote Australia, particularly starting with the Northern Territory. Cindy Mitchell completed her PhD, and there's an article and an interview with her in this report as well, which just shows what an extraordinary contribution she's made to the narrative, and we call her the story weaver, that's underpinning our work in this regard. What it's effectively coming down is, how do we unlock the leadership capability and the power of Indigenous women to be supported on a wealth creation agenda that allows them to contribute to the flourishing communities they so aspire to build. And we are looking at numbers of aspects of this, not only in terms of the type of accelerator and incubator support those women need, the sorts of power of a Indigenous women's movement that leverages Indigenous knowledge in articulating the very important role that women can play in the cultivation of those opportunities, and the profound impact that can have on building flourishing communities. And I think we'd agree that closing the gap still remains an enormous priority for Australia. And this piece of work is really starting to have a significant impact on how we think about the infrastructure that builds agency and autonomy for Indigenous Australia, and, as I said, particularly positions women to be supported to make a contribution in that way. Our work with young people and emerging leaders also continues well. We welcomed another wonderful cohort of young people in the 2023 Emerging Leaders Program, an extraordinary group of students from Year 10 to Year 12 from right across Australia, who brought such passion and ambition and deep questioning about their own purpose and the future that they wanted to create for themselves. And we're so privileged to be able to work with those extraordinary young people as we work with the Ethics Centre and continue to work with the Australian Indigenous Mentoring Exchange and with Federation Uni to work out how to support a platform that ultimately aspires to deepen ethical understanding in the context of the school curriculum. Ethical understanding is the seventh pillar of the school curriculum, and yet our research to date shows that many teachers feel uncertain about their own understanding of how to build deeper ethical understanding in their students, and a lack of artefacts and collateral to support the teaching of that. And we're delighted to be working with the partners that we are in building out a pilot to actually test some of the materials that have already emerged from our work in classrooms, and then to look at how we scale that nationally. The other really important platform that we've been focused on this year is citizen leadership and community resilience. There's enormous power in our communities for people who, in small and large ways, take up leadership roles, and all our work indicates the imperative of this in, once again, building flourishing communities. And so we're doing a range of different projects that explore the sort of what is community, and how do we define community in a tribal, globalized, polarized world. How do we understand how to build the capability of communities, and increasingly, what are the sort of capital models that support communities having the agency and autonomy to unlock capital to build the projects or contribute to the projects that they think are so imperative for the success of their communities. And we're delighted to announce that in 2023 we'll be working with 9 regional Victorian communities to innovate a new way of thinking about leadership capability in those communities, and to build out a scalable model that will be relevant not just for those 9 communities, but also across Australia. So that's just some small indication of the many things that we've done this year, many of which we've outlined in the stories in the Menzies brief. We feel so fortunate to be able to continue Sir Robert Menzies' legacy in really thinking deeply about what leadership is. We really encourage you to think about a multitude of ways that you might like to connect with us. Join us in webinars, get in contact with us to tell us what you've been up to in terms of your own careers. Think deeply about your own purpose, the leadership capability that you have, the contribution and the ways that you're acting for the greater good. And if you would like to support any particular aspect of our work, please think of us this Christmas. and consider making a donation. We are starting to get real traction in terms of the leadership movement that we're seeking to amplify. We fundamentally can see across all the platforms of our work the profound importance of purpose and the sorts of values and principles that underpin it, and increasingly in a world beset by meta crises, a deal of uncertainty and cynicism about leadership, the profound importance of each and every one of us being connected to our purpose, understanding our collective responsibility to each other, and acting for the greater good. Have a wonderful holiday season, and I look forward, hopefully, to connecting with you in some way next year.